Long days and pleasant nights, fellow explorers. Welcome to another live Q&A with me, the Exploring series, for March 18th, 2021. We're keeping up the rhythm, the tradition of doing these every month. So, because I enjoy them, I think the people that do tune in also enjoy them, so it's just good times all around. Let me put some sort of background music just to fill in any gaps here. Some cryo chamber. Great stuff. So, I'm taller than you imagine. I don't know how you can really... I could be 3 feet. You don't know. Alright, so I'm gonna... You can filter in your questions here as we go, but I want to take a moment, since I have this venue, to address something. April is coming up. April 1st is coming up, and longtime viewers of the channel know that traditionally I would do a sort of unique video every April 1st. Generally a rather humorous one, or humor is at least the intent. And last year, I sort of dropped the ball. I didn't really put out a proper one. I just did a reading of H.P. Lovecraft's Cats and Dogs essay, which I found hilarious, which is why I did it. I don't know if everyone else found it hilarious, but I did. But it was really just... It was because I just didn't have time to do a proper April Fool's video. And so I have to break the news here as an official announcement. There will not be any April Fool's video this year. And I don't really know for the future. I didn't really ever intend for it to become a tradition. In the past, it was basically just I had an idea, you know, sort of just hit my brain in like November or something, and it was like, that would be great. I should do that. That's funny. And so then it basically was just created out as like a passion project, you know, of just something that I thought was funny that I wanted to create, so I created. And I just really haven't had any great ideas in like the last couple years. So, you know, trying to force it isn't good. And so I can tell you then the ideas that I had for this year that I was like, oh, I guess I could force myself to do. One was like doing like a really crazy, like over the top sort of dude bro kind of thing of my top 10 scariest SCPs. And like half of the list wouldn't even be SCPs. And then I was just really, that's too much work. You know, writing that whole script and coming up with jokes, and so it's just too much. Then the other idea that I was like, okay, I don't have time for that. I'm just gonna try to do a Gamers Against Weed video that everyone requests, and it's like, I'll finally just release it on April 1st, and it'll be great. And so I actually sat down, I had like all these articles up, and I was doing reading, and I was like, I hate this. I can't stand any of this. So, yeah, I just closed all that, and I'm like, nope, we're not doing anything. Now, that does not mean I won't ever do a Gamers Against Weed video down the line, but just doing it as an April 1st video like that, it was not going to happen. So, yeah, I just want to nip that in the bud, you know, so you're not devastated come April 1st. I mean, I have a lot of things in the pipeline that I'm working on, and that's why I can't, you know, it's mostly why I'm not doing April Fool's stuff, is that I'm just busy with all sorts of other things. But yeah, just nip that in the bud. Shouldn't Gamers Against Weed be on April 20th? Yeah, that's true. I guess if I ever do release it, if April 20th ever falls on a Monday, I guess that would be the day to do it. which I don't think is this year. No, Tuesday this year, I'm afraid. Someday. Let's see. Are you planning any audiobooks? Yeah, sort of. I am planning to do another SCP reading of a tale. Sometime soon, within the next couple months. It's not really traditional SCP fare. I'm only doing it because I can call the video Exploring the SCP Foundation, and so people will click on it. That's basically it. But I'm sure, people will like it, I'm sure. Lovecraft. At some point, I'll be doing Color Out of Space. That'll probably be the next one. Will I ever cover SCP-1440 and the Brother's Death? I looked into it. I didn't really see like an abundance of material to cover. I could be, maybe I just didn't go deep enough. But I mean, I was interested enough to start looking into it. So yeah, probably at some point. Any more Lord Blackwood? No. Not at the moment. I don't think anyone else has written any new stuff that I've heard of. Hopefully. I mean, Lord Blackwood's the greatest, so I'm really hoping that authors continue to write some more tales. The inevitable Lord Blackwood Murphy Law crossover. That will be the greatest of all time. What sort of content have I thought about doing in the future? Well, so the big thing that I'm trying to sort of test the waters of right now is video game related content, because I would say video games are like my primary hobby. It's a thing that I really enjoy. And so we're doing that with the Final Fantasy XIV stuff. That's all good. I'm also working on 2 videos that cover the entire story of Final Fantasy VI. And I actually finished last night the first half of that script. So the script is half done for that, up to the World of Ruin. So I'm pretty excited for that one. That's more of just like a proof of concept thing. Of like, yeah, not every game that I would cover is of the same magnitude and scope as Final Fantasy XIV. I could do smaller projects. So, yeah, I'm sort of trying to test the waters of that, trying to branch into that. Obviously, video games are a huge market. It's a huge, plenty of people are interested in the stories of all these different video games, Final Fantasy games, or Fallout, or The Witcher, or, Mass Effect, all sorts of things I could cover that aren't specifically like topic based. Because say I did a series on, say, Mass Effect, and I did a video about the Geth and Reapers and different alien species and maybe certain events or something, that doesn't tell you the plot of Mass Effect. That's more for people that have played the games or whatever and want further deep dives into it. So it's definitely a difference, and I'm sort of trying to test it out. My favorite SCP author is DJ Cactus, of course. Somebody showed an Excel file that showed how many of each authors that I've covered on the channel, and DJ Cactus is so far above everyone else. What is my opinion on the SCP animated channels on the rise? So yeah, this is sort of a controversy thing going on. Not really. It's a discussion going on. SCP Illustrated put out that video. There are obviously some really good animation channels that exist that really care about SCPs. They love SCPs. They're like me. They just really dig it and they want to make content about it, and that's all good. The problem is some of the other animation channels that are just sort of farming out all the work. You know, they're bringing in, you know, people that don't care or know anything about SCP in order to do the animations or write the scripts or what have you. And they're just sort of trying to flood the market because it gets views. It's popular. And that goes, you know, anything. It could go for anything. And then, you know, this is just how the thing would happen. So it's never great. But there's not really anything I can do about it. I just keep my nose to the grindstone. I'm just going to keep making the same, you know, type of videos that I do. I'm not going to start farming out and trying to come up with some cheap animations in order to just make my channel more palatable to certain audiences. So I just do what I do. Cats or dogs? Well, I've always been a cat person. I own 3 cats currently, but I will be getting a dog soon. My first dog ever. I'm also testing the waters of dog ownership. So I'm pretty excited about that. I think I'd mentioned this before, getting a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. I'm in contact with a breeder. I don't think the mother is pregnant yet, but they're like not sure. I don't know. They have to. I don't know. It's in there. I'm at the top of the list though, so it should be good. What are my cats called? I have the eldest cat is named Kitty, very imaginatively. Then there's Boogle, and finally Locke, named after Locke Lamora. Who would win in a game of Warzone, me or Volgan? That's a good question. I don't really know his gaming prowess. I do know I'm fairly good at Call of Duty as like the normal Call of Duty, but Warzone, that's no good. Because generally when I play a game like that, a game like Call of Duty, I tend to rush a lot. Big on rushing. Because, you know, I don't mind dying as long as I kill a couple people along the way. Don't take that quote out of context. So Warzone, that sort of thing where it's just like you got one life, you get one shot, and it's just, it tends to be a bit too slow for my taste. Unless you're just the type that just flies in and just tries to go as quick as possible. But then, you know, you gotta deal with loading screens and, you know. What do I think about the Confinement series by Lord Bung? I haven't really watched most of it. I've only watched snippets. Because I don't tend to watch sort of humorous things. My humor is... I have a very dry sense of humor. So, I mean, it's good work. He does good work. Clearly, I mean, it's super popular. It's crazy to me how like long it takes for him to put out each episode. And I'm not like waiting with bated breath like a lot of people. I just sort of observe. Because I think he does most of it himself. Which is admirable, but it's like, you know, it's tough to make a living like that. I'm surprised he doesn't have more like crowdfunding kind of things and stuff. There are plenty of SCP channels that read articles word for word, but do you think there's room for more summary explanation channels like yours? Yes. This was the most shocking thing when I started exploring SCP, is that there were not more channels like that. I had always known there were reading channels, And I'm not shocked that there is a bunch of reading channels, because it's easier. I mean, just reading a document someone else wrote is easier than writing a new document. But yeah, I'm surprised there isn't more, because if you look at other like fandoms and other fictional universes and things like that, you go into Star Wars content, you go into Lord of the Rings content, Warhammer 40K content, any sort of thing like that. There's not a whole lot of just reading original material on the channel. It's not like, I don't think there's many Elder Scrolls channels that just read like the in-game books and stuff. I mean, it's all sort of mostly summarized or transformative. So yeah, I guess SCP borrows more from like the creepypasta sort of world of just, there's no reason to summarize. You just read it. But yeah, I wish there were more channels like mine. Have I ever played CB or SCP Secret Laboratory? No, I've not. And that probably might surprise some people that I'm into gaming and into SCP, but I've never played the SCP games. And that's because I don't really like horror games. That's not my bag. So I'd love to play like a good SCP, like sort of management game or things like that. Something that isn't just first-person horror. What made me want to start an awesome lore channel like this? Originally, it was seeing a 15-minute video that titled The Cthulhu Mythos Explained, and I figured there's no way you can explain all of that in 15 minutes, and I thought I could do a better job. Would I ever read any creepypastas? Yeah, that's sort of been on the docket at some point to do a reading of some creepypasta. I don't know which one. I'd have to read a bunch to sort of decide which would be a good one to go with. But yeah, I mean, that's certainly a wealth of material that could be interesting. What are my thoughts on the Among Us SCP if I've read it? Yeah, seems a little clickbaity, I guess. Any sort of really topical thing like that. It's like, in 8 years, are we going to look back and like, oh, remember the Among Us SCP? I don't know. I prefer the more timeless stuff that isn't based around what's hot at the moment, but it's all right. I mean, there could be a lot worse Among Us SCPs. Would I ever go more in-depth in the End of Death canon? Yeah, I am planning a more... I don't know what I would title it. I don't know if it would be more End of Death SCPs or End of Death Expanded or something like that. But yes, I do need to do a deeper dive into that because my original video is pretty shallow. Do I like memes? No. There you go. I mean, sometimes. I mean, it's like rare. It's rare. I would say 1 out of 100 memes that I see, I'll give like a chuckle to. Not even, like an exhale of breath or something like that. That's about the meme level I'm at. Thoughts on Confinement and appearing in an episode? Oh, I would definitely appear in an episode of Confinement, although now that I've said I don't really watch it, that might exclude me. What do I think of SCP Overlord? That was fantastic. Yeah, that was really cool. And I'd love to be a voice in a project like that. That's some top tier SCP content as far as I'm concerned. But that's just because I don't like the humorous side. So, I mean, Lord Bung, things like that, that's definitely very good for what it is. But for my tastes, stuff like Overlord was just really cool. and the 096 short film. What type of dog? A Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. Named Corone. Do I think Donnie Darko would have been a great SCP? Now that's pretty interesting. That film, yeah, is very sort of SCP-esque, I guess. I mean, you'd have to transform it a lot. You wouldn't be able to have like the same sort of narrative in an SCP document. You'd have to have the foundation probably coming in afterwards and trying to piece it together. But yeah, I mean, I love that movie, so that would be interesting. Do I plan on covering any international SCPs? Yeah, at some point. I'm still sort of farming the wealth of English SCPs before I need to move on to the international stuff. But I haven't, I haven't really looked into it much. What is the background music called? This is from Cryo Chamber, Dark Ambient of 2020. Do I hate any of my videos? If so, which would I remake? What did I hate? What did I hate? I think it was the Fifth Church one. I was really not happy with. And I almost didn't release it because I was so unhappy with it. I think it was the Fifth Church one, I believe. I don't know if I'd say I hated it, but pretty close. Otherwise, the earliest videos are probably ones that I would remake. Ones where the audio quality is not really up to snuff at this point, and probably the writing could improve, I'm sure. How's my week been? It's been pretty good, busy, but I'm in the process of buying my first home right now. I'm in a condo, but first home, it's pretty hectic, pretty exciting, pretty hectic. So yeah, that's sort of been what's going on. Balancing that and work is always a little tricky. Am I into HoloLive? Yeah, I mean, I'll be naming a dog Corone, so yeah. I wouldn't say I like watch it like religiously. I don't watch VTubers religiously or anything like that. But a background noise, it's pleasant. Here and there. What is my least favorite SCP I've covered? That's tricky, because I usually don't include SCPs that I don't like. I guess I would say the, just from recent memory, the Department of Abnormalities video, the last one that I included in that one, where the MTF agents like go down into the bunker and they get slaughtered and stuff like that. That one I almost didn't include in the video because I was like, I don't agree with adding this to like the Department of Abnormalities canon. But it is another one in connected with that people might be interested in, so I'm going to include it, but I don't really care for it. Who's my favorite VTuber? Well, Corone is up there, obviously, but I would say my favorite right now is probably Ina. Because she's really into Lovecraft and Final Fantasy XIV, so, Collab with the Volgan when? Whenever he contacts me to do a collab. That's when that'll happen. Not because I don't want to reach out to others to collab, it's just I don't do that. So I only guest star. Yeah, I know. It's just sort of the nature of this that people sort of spam questions, hoping that I'll grab onto it. And sometimes it does help because otherwise it might get lost. But you know, it's sort of hard to read all the questions and latch onto one. If I could be an SCP, what SCP would I be? I don't know. Probably 999. I think this was asked before, is like, which one would I want to be for a day? And I initially said 999, but then I realized that you would like never be that happy again and it would like be terrible. But permanently being 999 could be all right. Basically, have I ever thought about writing an SCP article myself? I've thought about it. I can't really ever commit to it. I'd love to write a Lord Blackwood tale. I'd love to write a Murphy Law tale. I'd love to write a Blackwood and Murphy Law tale, but an actual SCP article, I don't know. I think I would start with a tale, personally. A video about the administrator. It's so jumbled. I mean, generally, articles that include the administrator keep him in a very mysterious light with little details. And so trying to compile like a collection of mysterious details, it's a little tricky. I think it's best when he just sort of pops up occasionally when I'm talking about certain SCPs. Because like the administrator in Memento Mori, that's a very different image of the administrator compared to the Ouroboros cycle. And it's like, you know, how do I sort of combine this into one video? How do I pick the SCPs in my videos? I would say the biggest factor is rating. It generally has to be somewhat highly rated, like at least 100 or so. Just because I'm not going to take the time to read every SCP on the website or anything like that. I'll let other people do the preliminary judging and then I'll go from there. Suggestions, you know, I generally like to look into anything that people suggest, because clearly, you know, there's something to it. And then, yeah, it's just sort of, if I like it, we go forward. Will I ever cover Pangloss of the Bellerverse canon? Bellerverse, yes. Pangloss, I don't know. It's sort of like the administrator, but even less so. Pangloss, I think, appears in even fewer SCPs with even fewer details. Unless I'm wrong and there's been like a recent influx of Pangloss stuff. But I don't think so. Any pre-YouTube ambitions? Yeah, my big ambition years back was to be a writer. Specifically a screenwriter. I thought that would be such a great job. But I really don't have a talent for fiction. You know, I don't have a talent for that sort of... I don't have a talent for long-form writing. You know, I wrote a couple screenplays and it's just like, they were like the bare minimum of length for a screenplay. And it's just, so I honestly, I do better scrunching things down and, you know, cutting out content into a script and summarizing. Do I read Stephen King? Yep. I mean, I'm not, I wouldn't say I've read the majority of Stephen King's works, but I'm working on it. I read a good number. I mean, I would say The Dark Tower is like one of my favorite series of books, but I really, really enjoyed it. I thought that was such a great book. And Bag of Bones. Bag of Bones, I got in like a collection of Stephen King, and I was just, for some reason, I really liked that book too. a full Cactus Verse video. I could see that eventually happening, like when the Cactus Verse is sort of like done, but I think the Cactus Verse is just beginning. I hope DJ Cactus gets back to writing soon, but yeah, I don't think we're at the point of needing a full Cactus Verse video. Have I ever considered covering Godzilla or Attack on Titan? No, I haven't considered it. Like a whole series on Godzilla stuff, isn't most of that kind of just like goofy with his kid and I don't know, talking about Mecha Godzilla and going to space, and I don't know. I feel like a lot of those movies from like the 70s or whatever is just sort of silly, but I guess maybe that's just me being ignorant. My favorite vid I have on the channel is hard to say. Cthulhu Mythos and Bloodborne is up there. Ouroboros Cycle's up there. God of War Norse mythology video. The Teletubbies video. The Sons of Tyrion video for Celtic mythology. I really like that one. Any plans to explore FF14 deep lore / lost locations? Maybe. I mean, if my Final Fantasy 14 series like really took off, I mean, it just like exploded, and I went through the whole story of the game and people were just clamoring for more Final Fantasy 14 content, then yes, I would do a bunch more videos on it. But as it stands, I mean, we're just looking at the basic story at this point. Do I have a favorite author in general? You would assume it's not Stephen King. Stephen King would be up there, but I guess I'd probably say Brandon Sanderson. I think I've read more of his stuff than any other author. Yeah, probably Brandon Sanderson. What SCP video do I wish people watched more? Ooh. That's a good question. What video do I think is sort of underviewed? I mean, certainly I'm very pleased overall with the view counts of my channel. Like, do not get me wrong. It's been phenomenal. It's been insane. So I don't know if I'd really say anything is that underviewed. I guess I would say like the Apotheosis stuff, I'm surprised didn't get some more views. Because I was basing it off of like, okay, Ouroboros was this big multi-part thing. I'm going to do another big multi-part thing. And it just never reached the same heights. But that might be because I didn't combine it into one video. And I think Ouroboros probably didn't really become that big of a hit until I combined it into one video. And now it's my most popular video. So I should just release Apotheosis as a single video, just on a slow month. We'll just do that. Will I cover more Warhammer 40k content? Yeah, so that was always the plan, is that eventually SCP would slow down and I'd switch back to 40k to really focus on it. I don't know when that plan will come to fruition at this point, but we'll see. You said I wouldn't want to cover Dark Souls lore since Vadi is just so good. Do I feel this way about any other lore? Well, that's the thing, is I don't really watch a lot of lore channels. I mean, despite making them, it's not really a primary interest of mine, because I prefer to read stuff generally. So Vadi is just one that I do happen to watch because for Dark Souls lore and stuff, it's more theory based than a lot of other lore, than a lot of other like fictional universes and things like that. So it's not something I can really just sit down and read through documents myself. Vadi puts in the work to come up with theories and piece it all together, and so that's why I like watching him. So I don't know if I would say, I'm sure there is. I mean, whenever I start like a new series, there's always people that are like, oh, why are you doing this? This channel does it so much better already. Or this channel already covers this completely. And it's like, all right, you know, we'll see what I can do. My thoughts on SCP-5545. I don't know what I don't have every number. I am not a living embodiment of the SCP wiki, I'm afraid. So, let me just Google real quick. Oh, abnormality. I covered that one. Well, now that's especially shameful. The fact that I covered it and don't remember the number. But still, you know. No, that's a good one. That's a really good one with a great ending to it that you don't, you know, it's one of those where it's like, it starts off so basic and simple and just expands and expands and it's just like, oh my goodness. Starting off with just like infinite hallways and then, oh god, you know. Was I disappointed that SCP-5555 wasn't a fifth-ism SCP? Yeah. I mean, I like that SCP, but yeah, I mean, it was sort of, it's a bit of a shame. How has the F14 videos been going? Are the views where you wanted them to be? No, not at this point. I mean, obviously not. If I took the same amount of effort that I'm putting into Final Fantasy XIV and just put it into SCP instead, it would be far better for my channel. Obviously. You know, I'm not an idiot. But your views are never going to be that great if your core audience doesn't really watch it and the YouTube algorithm doesn't pick up on it. So it's clear that my current audience isn't that crazy about it, you know, for the most part. But we're just basically waiting for the algorithm to see if it's worth considering. So yeah, I mean, we're gonna keep going. Like, we're gonna at least finish A Realm Reborn, and then, you know, we'll see how it's going. Saddest SCP. A bunch of the ones in the dog and cat SCP videos were pretty sad. The dragon one, pretty sad. Memento Mori, I cracked up, you know, I teared up, not teared up, but, you know, it was a little, I choked up a little bit while writing the script for that one. So, I don't know if I could really pick a saddest one, but those are all up there. Would I do a video on the Roanoke colony? Maybe. You know, like random like disappearances and stuff. It's a little tricky to make a video on because there's no explanation, there's no answer, and content-wise, you know, there's not a whole lot to say because there isn't a whole lot to say. I think a while back some people requested Bermuda Triangle. And not only does that just have to deal with disappearances that have no explanation, the problem with the Bermuda Triangle is that it's sort of all just a myth. So, you know, really not a whole lot to say about that. Am I a fan of the Fallout games? Yes. Yes, I am. Before the Exploring series, my logo was pretty much just Vault Boy. Longer SCP videos, or is it dependent on the article? Well, yeah, obviously it's entirely dependent on the article. I can't make a 45-minute video really about, like, a 3-paragraph SCP. So, I mean, obviously I look for longer articles because longer videos tend to do better. But that's why I do a lot of compilation stuff, because when you take 5 shorter SCPs, then you can get up to 40 minutes pretty easily. And I'm surprised more channels don't do that. I mean, I feel like I'm the only channel that does like aquatic SCPs or beneficial SCPs. Would I consider covering the Wanderer's library, like the actual website, or just the location within the SCP universe? Either way, maybe. I'd have to do a lot more reading to decide on something like that. Let's see. Yeah, a lot of spam here just to cover some stuff. I have no plans of covering RPC Authority. I have no plans of covering Gamers Against Weed. Which isn't to say I never will, but no plans currently, so that's all I can answer. Where I read SCP-387 Living Legos. Yeah. There was a... I was trying to think of another compilation since we were just talking about that. I was trying to think of like small like communities of SCPs, like small autonomous communities. There's several like that, I think, where, you know, sort of just this sort of not microscopic, but, well, sometimes microscopic or larger, of just anomalous communities that crop up and spread and things like that. And I was trying to think of how I could group those together. Not toy SCPs. No. There's... I don't remember the one I was... I mean, toy SCPs could be a compilation as well. There's potential for a lot of compilations. But I can't ever, like, cross over. I can't have one SCP in 2 different videos. That's one of my rules that I really try not to break. So one of the videos I have upcoming is, like, food SCPs. So anomalous food items. And so one of those that could be in there is the self-replicating cakes. The cake that, if it's not eaten, will just multiply forever and take over the world, you know, cover the whole world. And it's like, okay, I could put that in food SCPs, but what if I ever do a self-replicating SCPs, you know, then that's like the quintessential self-replicating SCP. So, you know, there's things to consider. Tiny SCPs? That's probably a fairly broad category, I would think. But yeah, I mean, that's part of what I think about, is like, okay, can I come up with some more compilations? Can I say SCP cake without laughing? Yeah, I can probably say most things without laughing. What accent was used in my SCP Murphy Law video, and where did I learn it? I don't know if it's really an accent. A lot of people said Clint Eastwood. Some people said Solid Snake. I was really basing it off of Marv from Sin City, Mickey Rourke. That's mostly what I was basing it off. Speaking just a little bit slower, and obviously it's not a perfect it's not a perfect impression, but that's more of what I was going for. But I like watching the show Paranormal Activity. I've never seen it. I've seen all the Paranormal Activity movies. Those started off pretty good. SCPs that take you to other dimensions. That's not an especially pithy title, but it's something like that. Teleportation or something, transportation, something like that. I think there's like an inflatable pool or something that can like take you to different locations. Is there a teleportation? I'm looking at all the tags here. Yeah, there is a teleportation tag. So teleportation SCPs might be made at some point. What SCP do I think is unnecessarily complicated? Boy. There's quite a few. I don't know if I would. I don't want to name drop anything. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. But there are definitely that are just like, even though I like longer SCPs and I like complicated stuff, there sometimes people just tack on too many addenda, too much dialogue, unrelated things just to sort of pad things out and try to make it more epic. Which I think is more of a problem nowadays than it used to be. Deal with the devil SCPs? Is there more than one of those? I know there's one that's, I think, titled like Deal with the Devil. Compilation of boring SCPs, like SCPs that bore through materials. Is that what you're saying? Do I plan to follow up on the anti-memetic division storyline that was referenced in the anti-meme video? Yeah, I would like to do an entire video, or maybe a few, covering the entire anti-memetic division storyline. I think that would be really good at some point. Separate from the series I'm doing on it, do I like Final Fantasy XIV as a game? Yeah, absolutely. I played through the entire thing for the first time, all the way up to current content, and as soon as I finished, I was like, I need to make a series about this. Would I ever explore Brandon Sanderson's Cosmere? Yeah, at some point that would be very fun to do. How far am I into 14? Well, on my main character, I've beaten the whole thing. I am current. On Explora, she is currently about to do the Stone Vigil. So, I really try not to play too far ahead on that character. Any other games I intend on doing after Final Fantasy? I think The Witcher 3 could be fun. I probably would have to preempt some things and explain some things from like the other games and maybe the books or something. But yeah, I think The Witcher 3 could be fun. Will I ever explore the world of Monster Hunter? I mentioned this some other time in the past, but yeah, I had an idea at once to do like sort of a bestiary kind of thing, covering all sorts of different monsters in Monster Hunter, but I just don't know how long any of those videos would be. You know, how much can I really say about the Great Jaggy or, you know, Duratotus or something, you know, I don't know. My thoughts on the Red Pool? For a long time, that was my favorite SCP. Back when only Series 1 existed. Nowadays, I still like it. I have fond thoughts about it, but yeah, we've come a long way. And I think the Red Pool in a lot of ways is indicative of that. If the Red Pool was written today by like DJ Cactus, it would be quite a bit different, you know? Is there going to be another vote on content? That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, not right now, not within the next couple months. A lot of this rides on Final Fantasy XIV, how well that series does within the next few months. If the YouTube algorithm ever picks it up and decides to share it, you know, we'll see. If I end up dropping it, then yeah, we'll go back to doing a poll. I think we should probably move over to super chats here pretty soon. Metal Gear lore series. Oh god, gives me a headache just thinking about it. In 5545, what did Monroe do to that girl? It's not said. It's left to your imagination. All you know is that it was not good. somehow some anomaly was created in the process, and she wanted perpetual revenge. So, a lot of a lot of good SCPs do not need to spell everything out. How long do my 30 to 40 minute videos take to create? Yeah, those are a bit more effort than, say, a 20-minute video, obviously. Hard to say. I never measure. And a lot of things that I do, I don't even like count as work. Like if people ask, I never really think of like reading the documents as work for whatever reason, because it's just like, it seems just enjoyable. So it's hard to say. I would say generally less than like 20 hours, but things can vary. And I don't keep track. So sometimes it's just like, oh, it's 3 a.m. I guess I'll keep working on this script. Do I plan on getting help on creating content? No. Not really. It's just, I think I've sort of built this channel on my voice, and I mean that obviously literally my voice, but also my sort of mental voice, my writing voice. This thing all works, and we're at this point because of my effort and my sort of personality and my thought processes and things like that. And so I don't think I'd really want to ever risk ruining the formula by bringing in someone else that might change things or might do things their own way. The only thing that I would ever sort of, I wouldn't mind bringing someone in like into my house that really knows audio and just like sets up my entire audio setup like a professional thing, because that's one category I know nothing about, and it's just we do what we do here and it works out. But yeah, that's the only thing I'd say. All right, I admit I don't know anything, so set it up. Yeah, that's about it. All right, let me bring up some super chats here. Let's see here. Like an editor. Yeah, I mean, my editing process is obviously not complicated. I mean, it's a little time consuming, and it's something that probably someone could do, although I do pride myself a little bit as much as anyone could on like sort of having a scrutinizing eye for particular artwork. Like, it's just, I have an image of my head of the image that I want in the video, and that's what I try and find, and I go to great lengths to try and find it. Doesn't always work, but all right. Super chats, here we go. From F, thank you very much. Are we cool yet? Yes. If you're sending a super chat to the Exploring series, you are certifiably cool. Ramiro Rocha, thank you. First time coming to one of these. Glad to have you. Hoodoo Pontifex, thank you. Hey man, as someone with insomnia, your videos help me sleep at night. So thank you so much for your awesome content. No problem. I'm glad I can lull you to sleep. That's a nice talent. Daniel Bull, thank you. Oh boy, it's 3 a.m. It is. I mean, it could be 3 a.m. for you. It's not 3 a.m. for me. Soul Hunter, thank you. What is one of my favorite SCPs? 3001 is usually my go-to. But I really like Memento Mori. That's definitely of the recent ones that I've covered. That's definitely very far up there. Yeah, I guess if you combine like the Cactus Verse as one SCP, that would be up there. That's probably cheating though. Dirt Zero, thank you. Just hopped on during my break at work to say hello. Thank you for all the work you do to keep us entertained. No problem. Goliath Xanatos, thank you. Ever thought about covering the Legacy of Kain series? It has heavy Lovecraftian influence in the franchise. Would love to hear your thoughts on it. I have not thought about that. I don't really know much about it. But as I always say, you know, if it wins the poll, I will do my best to cover it. Callisto Arcaz, thank you. I love the Forgotten Realms and really enjoyed your Drow video. Do you think you'll ever delve into characters such as Drizzt or Gunhoivar or Zaknefane within the Underworld or Forgotten Realms as a whole? Maybe. I think originally I planned on doing a video on Forgotten Realms, and then I sort of backed out of it. So it's possible. It's possible. Daniel Bull, again, thank you. Most amount of work I've lost due to an error / mistake, computer crash, file corruption, missave, etc., etc. It has never been too bad. On my Let's Play channel, in the Let's Play world, I've definitely lost entire videos due to just corruption and nonsense. For exploring stuff, no, it's never been too bad. I use Adobe Premiere and it auto saves like every 10 minutes or something like that. So, and I use Notepad++ for my scripts, so that always auto saves. So, and I've never had like a hard drive fail yet, or you know, some sort of catastrophic thing. So, no, it's been pretty good. I think maybe once, I don't even remember the video, but I probably lost like 30-40% of a script or something that I had to rewrite. But then when I rewrote it, I thought it was better. So in the end, it worked out. You in 3D, thank you. Been watching, listening to your videos since 2019. Love your stuff. It's nice to acquire knowledge of certain topics while working on stuff like digital art, in my case. Well, good luck to you with your digital art, and I'm glad I can help out. Kill for Senpai, thank you. No question this time, just wishing you good wishes and keep up the good work, bud. Thank you, and I shall. The Video Game Empire, thank you. What's your favorite group of interest? Also, what Among Us SCP? My favorite group of interest would probably be the Church of the Broken God. Or the UIU. The FBI's UIU. The Among Us SCP, I don't know the number. Maybe somebody in chat can help out. But yeah, recently there was an SCP based on Among Us as like a concept. You'll have to read it yourself. Digibits, thank you. Damn it, please show your members a cat. Seems talking about Among Us makes you chuckle, so on behalf of the ladies, Among Us, Among Us, Among Us. Yeah, I mean, I'm a chuckling man. Can I show you a cat? Do I have a cat? No, I have a cat here. Hold on. There's always a cat nearby. Oh, no, he's not interested. Don't lay down. They want to see you. All right. This is, whoops. This is my, there we go. This is my middle cat, Boogle. He's fairly old. I think he's around 11. He looks really grumpy. He's very fluffy. That's the word we use to describe him, fluffy. I rescued him from the woods near my house. Basically, one day we just noticed there was like this little kitten that was like living under this pile of sticks all by himself. You know, and there's feral cats in that wood. We've seen them before. But this one was all by himself, just looked so pathetic and helpless. And he was like super terrified. He's still pretty terrified around any other people, but, how I caught him was basically, I put out food, and, you know, every day I brought it like closer to our back door. And so every day he would come and eat the food. And then eventually I placed the food like right inside our house, like, you know, on the other side of the back door. And then it was a sliding door. So I stood inside the house, like behind the curtains next to the back door. And then as soon as he came inside, finally, I waited there for like 35 minutes. He finally came inside to eat, and I slammed the door shut, so he was trapped. And yeah, that was probably pretty traumatizing, but, you know, he loves me now, so it all works out. That's what all kidnappers say, I think. Yeah, so he's a great cat. All right. F, thank you again. Which SCP is the most dummy thick? I mean, I'd have to go with 999. I mean, that thing is pure thickness. Digibits again, thank you. Thanks, mate. Daft request aside for your Moggies, cats for the Americans. I really enjoy your work. You're a top shelf creator. All the best with your first home buy and doggy adoption. Cheers. I'm a top shelf creator. That's very nice to hear. Thank you. Cell Hill, thank you. I binge your SCP and Elder Scrolls series every morning before I go to work. Your stuff is awesome. Thank you very much. Danny D, thank you very much. I don't do Patreon, so have this. Love your content and look forward to more. All right. It'll keep on coming. Tinker's Tavern, thank you. Hey man, your videos are amazing. Keep it up. What made me want to do exploring videos? Yeah, like I said, I saw a video for Cthulhu Mythos titled The Cthulhu Mythos Explained, and it was about 15 minutes long, and I just felt that I could do better. You know? So, I don't know if I actually did better with the Cthulhu Mythos, but it proved to be pretty popular, so I guess so. Daniel Uwu, thank you. Goliath Xanatos again, thank you. Question, which SCP-001 proposals are your favorite and why? Ouroboros Cycle is up there. It's one of, you know, it's just so epic. It's just an epic piece of SCP literature. The Truth I really like, even though it's not a proposal, but it's just such an interesting spin on an established SCP, which is awesome. Memento Mori is like the most recent one that really blew me away because it's just such talented writing, you know. I saw a comment, something that was like, if there was to be a last SCP, it should be this one, and I think I kind of agree. Yonkami Sujimoto, thank you very much. I'm loving all the content that you're putting up. The Red Realm makes me the most uncomfortable, but it's still great. Thank you for all the hard work you put into these videos. No problem. Sebastian Guzowski, thank you. Why do you think Lovecraft hated penguins so much? Well, yeah, I think he really hated, like, anything dealing with, like, water and, like, you know, the ocean and stuff like that. I think he had a big phobia about that, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know penguins specifically he hated. Is there a source for that? Citation needed, maybe? Goliath Xanatos again, thank you. Ever thought about covering Game of Thrones as a series? Yeah, I think it's come fairly close in the past to winning a poll. I've never read any of the books. I watched the whole show. But since the books will probably never be finished, at least that's the popular thought, I don't know if I'd really love starting it as a lore series, considering, you know, there's so much left unsaid. And I would never want to dip in. It would entirely be book based. You know, I wouldn't want to touch anything of this show because, you know. Bird Facts, thank you. First time watching the Q&A. Good to finally put a face to the voice. It keeps me entertained at work. Love your content, brother. Thank you. All right, we got some more here. Nicholas Tennant, thank you. Love to listen to your series while I'm washing dishes at work. Keep it up. All right, glad I can help. Callisto Arcas again, thank you. Friend gave me the Emperor's Soul. Should I wait and read Mistborn Final Empire first? No, I mean, I don't think it's really necessary. I definitely read the Emperor's Soul, although I read it years back. I'm just trying to remember. I mean, it's not even like, not even connected, is it? So I don't think you're really I was thrown off a little bit because it's like Mistborn: The Final Empire. I was trying to remember what exactly that was, but I only know it as just Mistborn. But yeah, so no, they're not related. It doesn't really matter. But I think probably I would read Emperor's Soul first, because when you read Mistborn, you're going to want to go to the rest of the books in the Mistborn series. So it'll be a while before you get back to the Emperor's Soul. But either way, you can't go wrong. Goliath Xanatos again. By the way, I've been subbed to your channel when you had 10k subs. You're my go-to creator to listen to when I work. Keep up the fantastic content. Thank you, man. Thank you. John Doe, thank you. Love your videos. Can you please show us your phone background? My phone background? Is this... It's not... I mean, I don't know what you expect, like some anime girls or some... I don't know. It's just like some Samsung sort of theme of just winter trees. I'm really boring. I'm really boring, man. There you go. F, thank you very much again. My cats wanted to donate their allowance to your cat. Well, that is very sweet of them. I will buy my cats some nice toys on behalf of you and your cats. All right. Sebastian Guzowski again. Thank you. Just from the Mountains of Madness. Yeah, I know what you were referring to. I just didn't think he had a hatred of penguins. Is more of just like he was using them as a literary thing. Fist Fight Caleb, thank you. I owe you some kind of money at this point. Thanks for a wonderful channel and content. Well, you don't owe me any money. Believe me, you do not owe me any money. Your views are all that I need. But thank you, regardless. That is very generous. Arthropod 108, thank you. I really enjoyed the Murphy Law video. The voice worked. Yeah, that was my biggest I was really, honestly, I mean, if I had to pick one thing of all the exploring stuff I've been nervous about, that was probably that video and that voice, because it was just... I put off doing that video for so long. I mean, I've known about Murphy Law for a long time. I put it off because I felt it needed to be a collab. I needed to bring in, like, the Volgan or something like that. But, no, it worked out. People really enjoyed that, and, yeah. So... that was good. Law. All right. That's all the Snapchats, as far as I can tell. I don't know if my chat froze or no. Oh, okay, we're good. How do I feel about SCP content being my main channel content? Do I expect that would be, do I like that it is? No, I mean, I never expected in a billion years for SCP to be like my career. Like, it's insane to even think about back in like 2012. No, I mean, I love SCP, and if I didn't, I wouldn't be doing this. So, yeah, I'm perfectly fine with it. Eventually we'll move on and SCP will die down a little bit, maybe once every couple weeks, but no, I'm perfectly fine with it. Fancy, thank you, with a little heart symbol. Heart back to you. Daniel Bull again, thank you, last one. All right. People wanted to know the model of my phone. It's like a Samsung Galaxy S20 FE or something. I think there was an FE in there. I don't know. I used to be really into like my phone and tricking it out and, you know, flashing the ROM and blah, blah, blah. But now it's just like, it's a phone. Emily, thank you. What's my favorite drink? I don't have to answer. I assume you mean alcoholic drink, unless the answer you were hoping for was Pepsi, which maybe. Yeah, well, if I have to pick an alcoholic drink, probably I would say a good mojito, or even like a raspberry mojito. I'm not like, I'm sorry to burst all your preconceptions, but I'm not like some big whiskey drinker or something like that. You know, if I'm gonna get an alcoholic beverage, it's gonna be pretty fruity. But yeah. Callisto Arcus again, thank you. Have you ever read any of the Wheel of Time series? If so, would I recommend it? I have not. I have been interested in, though. I have been interested in it because Brandon Sanderson came in to finish off that series. And so, that makes me sort of interested to go through the whole thing and see how it is. And I've heard a lot of good things about it. From what I understand, it's a big series. And I don't spend an awful lot of time reading books because I spend a lot of time reading things on the internet. So I try to take out an hour each day to read something from a book. But, you know, I'm not like a speed reader, so I don't burn through that many books in my life. What are my thoughts on Final Destination? Whatever you do, don't give your thoughts on Final Destination. I assume we're talking about the film series. All right. It's not the worst. I really like 3. I think 3 is the best Final Destination if I had to pick one. For some reason, that one just does not take itself seriously almost at all and just is like sort of just goofy horror fun. I don't know. I like the 3rd one. Those are my thoughts. How do I feel about reaction videos of my content? I don't understand it. Really? I mean, I guess it's more about the personality of the person reacting. Like, I'm sure if I put out a reaction video, some of you would watch it. So I guess, you know, there's something to it. But I don't watch any sort of reaction content. I'm not into that. It's incredibly flattering. I'm not against it. You know, if people want to do it, it's all good. Like I said, it's flattering. So... Jacob Mitchell, thank you. Your SCP readings are getting me through this deployment. Really appreciate your videos, brother. Well, good luck to you with your deployment. Glad I can help out. Good man, thank you. How long did the Ouroboros cycle video take to make? Well, it's 5 videos, really. So that was across like 5 weeks. I would say somewhere in the 70-hour range. That's a complete spitball, really. I have no idea, but a good number of hours. But I've gotten a good return on it, so it's all right. All right, I think we're just about wrapped up here. Favorite horror movie? The Witch. It used to be REC, but it's The Witch. Every time I watch that movie, I feel like I learn something new about it, and I just like appreciate a new aspect of it. I really love that film. Really good. Fist Fight Caleb again, thank you. Couldn't pay you enough if I tried. Are there any other universes I plan on working on in the future? I'm spaced on ideas, but I have thoughts of some stuff I'd love to hear you explore. Yeah, so I mean, as far as exploring universes, that really comes down to just the polls. Whenever I put up new polls and what people put in, polls, whatever wins, I'll cover it. So I really don't have much input on that. It's just the future is an open book. Am I single? Asking for a friend. Yes, ladies, I am single. I spend all day in this room working on SCP scripts. All right. Good man. Thank you again. Keep up the good work, brother. May I suggest SCP-007? What is SCP-007? I mean, I'm sure I know what it is, but... Oh, that's right, where he has the... in his torso. Yeah. But it's like, what do you want me to summarize about it? You know? This is a 3-paragraph SCP. And there might be some tales related to it. There could be. Which is what I did with, like, my 173 video, is most of it was just tales. But yeah, I am not really sure what specific details you wanna hear me say about it. All right. We're gonna wrap it up here. Stop your super chats. Otherwise, we'll just keep prolonging this. Thank you very much, though, to everyone that has given a super chat. Very generous of you. I definitely appreciate it. And thanks to the rest of you that just chime in, questions, or just viewing. It's these are very fun. These are very fun to do every month. So, yeah. We'll check back in next month. I don't know if it'll be specifically on the 18th again, but the 22nd, maybe. I don't want to commit again. I made that mistake in the past. Yeah, we'll do this again next month because it's fun. It's fun. And by then, you know, we'll have a better idea of how the Final Fantasy XIV series is looking. You know, maybe we'll be in a better position to see if I'll be putting up polls again or if that will be continuing. So, yeah. Thank you all for watching, listening, donating, all that stuff. Thank you, all of you. And keep exploring.